All right, you radio men from Mars. Here's something you might be able to relate to. I went in early, as I always did, into TRW to beat the traffic. So I'd go up the highway, Route 3 to Route 46, go into Fairfield, go into the company, and I'd sit down for a while, and I'd probably have a bagel and a chocolate milk or whatever. And the boss comes in, and I know when the boss comes in real early, something bad's going to happen. So he walks over and he has a sheet of paper. He puts it in front of me. He says, "We're having a big layoff." He says, "Look at the names there." He says, "Hey, I need you to circle like 12 names or whatever amount it was out of this." He says, "These people are going to go eventually, but for now, we need you to put." It was like 12 or 15 names. So I look at the names, and I know the people that don't work. They're either on the phones or they're dancing around. So I circle them. So I give it back to him. So anyway, I said to him, "Look," I said, "after the layoff, I'm going home half a day." He says, "Oh, okay." So he leaves, and everybody comes in, and one by one they got called to the front, which I thought was cruel. They would announce the person's name over the PA, and they'd walk up to the front office. And after the first person, oh, and they didn't come back through the company. They would go out the front door to their car and leave. That's what they wanted them to do. And there was a personnel person, I think, up in there. Well, anyway, uh, we go through the layoffs, and as the people are getting laid off, they're coming up to the company, and people are saying goodbye to them because they now all know they're going. So the layoff's over. We get near lunch, and I go out and I get in my car, and I'm going to go to my happy place. I'm going down to go down 46 to Route 3, I think it was, all the way out into Fairlawn, and there's a HeathKit there. And a few months before, I bought a HeathKit teletype book. It's yellow. I sold it on eBay, but in other words, it shows how teletypes work, how to repair them. And in the back, it had a circuit with TTL chips, or maybe CMOS. And I built it, and I interfaced it to a RIDI a RIDI interface module and a CW module. And it also do Amtor and Systor. Well, anyway, so the book was really unique. It was really good. So now I'm, just had this layoff. I'm driving over there. I pull into HeathKit, and as you come through the door, there would be people on computers. At that time, HeathKit had merged, or the company had bought them, and they actually had a full uh, a computer. I won't say it was like an IBM. I don't know if it was this powerful. I don't know anything about it. All I know there'd be people sitting there keying stuff in, and you'd walk down past them, and there were three walls of books, book racks. And I walk down, I get to the end, and there seems to be more people than normal, because you can hear the keys clicking. I look up, and the walls, there are no book racks. And I turn around and I look, and there's no HeathKit kits, there's no HeathKit demos, there's no, and I'm like, you get that feeling like you're in the wrong store, or what the hell's going on? I knew I was just there maybe 2, 3 months before. And this really good looking girl comes up to me. She says, "Are you okay?" I said, "HeathKit's my happy place." I said, "I come here, I buy something, I go home, I read." And I said, "I just got done with this layoff at work." I said, "I come over here." And she says, "Well," she says, "we basically closed up." And she says, "Let me show you something." So she takes me over to this door, and she opens the door, and on the floor of this like warehouse, or this big room, is all the HeathKit shit just piled in a pile. And she says, "If there's anything there you would like," she says, "I can give you a really good price on it." I'm like, that was even worse. Seeing the HeathKit stuff, the demos just piled on top of each other like they're going to go in a dumpster. And that's where they went. Eventually, that's where they went. So anyway, I said to her, I said, "Yeah," I said, "I come here for years." She says, "Well," she says, she's talking and I'm not hearing her anymore. And I'm looking at her and I'm like, this girl's like really good looking. So I go out my car, and she come out with me to the car. I got in, I started the car up, I rolled the window down, she's talking to me. She started telling me about stuff that's going on in her life that is horrible too. And I'm sort of listening to her, but all I was hearing was blah, 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 blah. My HeathKit's gone. My dad built a HeathKit FM tuner. We had other things that we bought. I won't go into that. I'm trying to stay on the focus. I stay focused on the story. But you got to picture me, lay off, get in the car. Now I'm going to go to one of my happy places. And when I get there, I walk in. From the outside, it looked exactly the same. As I walked in, past the people on the computers, that's no big deal. That was there before. It was just a little longer. And then as I looked up, the racks are gone of all the books. And they had some really good books there. In other words, you could see some of the books on the back of a magazine, but nothing like being there and seeing, I think it was Tabs and Writer J. Well, anyway, there were a bunch of thick books, and they would put something really unique in these books. And they would teach you like TTL, DTL, TTL. They had all the Don Lancaster books. And that's where you went when you wanted a really good electronic book without having to try to find it on there was no online. That's the other thing. So anyway, that's story number one. You know, I came back home. Oh, and on the way back, I stopped at a Burger King. And I'm eating, and I'm realizing as I'm sitting there, it used to be a Roy Rogers. And I used to stop there all the time on the way back from HeathKit to get my roast beef sandwich. Well, now I'm eating Burger King because Roy Rogers has closed down. This is just how it goes. Now the next one was I was at that company at TRW and I quit. So I get up one day after I quit and I realized I had fish tanks all throughout the house, and I started taking some of them down. And I still realized I needed supplies, so I would hop in the car and drive out to Lancaster, where I live now, in Pennsylvania. And it's a 3-hour ride. And once you get off out of New Jersey, and I think it's the Pennsylvania Turnpike I used to come in on, rolling hills, farms, silos. So I'm going to go to my happy place. I'm going out to that fish place. So I get in the car and I drive out, and it's bumper to bumper, you know, in New Jersey. Now I'm on the turnpike. And it opens up, and all of a sudden, there's sound walls. It's like being in a freaking maze. There are no rolling hills. There are no farms. There are no silos. So now, I'm trying to go to my happy place, and getting there now sucks. And I'm starting to get like anxiety because as you're driving, some of these sound walls come right up to the road. Those browns, they don't bother me now. Well, I don't drive anymore. But anyway, they have them out here. And I'm driving along. They really ruin the view from the road. So I get into the parking lot of that fish place. I pull up. And now that fish place was advertised on the back of magazines. And I think the guy's name was Manny. Well, anyway, he had the lowest prices. And I could ride from New Jersey in the car. The gas I used, the tolls, everything. It was still cheaper than buying stuff in New Jersey. So I'd go out every 6 months and buy my supplies. And it was like an ice cream building, like a Carvel. And on the top, they had this handmade fish out of plywood. It was colored. Well, anyway, I pull in, I look up, and there's the building. And the fish is all disconnected. He's like hanging loose. And I'm like, maybe they had a bad storm here? And I'm like, no, this is another happy place. He was in there, and he raised fish in the back room. He had live cultures of microworms and stuff to feed to your fish. He gave me freshwater and saltwater aquariums, freshwater and marine aquariums. It was a magazine, and he had like 5 years of it. And he would take the cover off when he didn't sell and send it back and get a credit. Well, he had bales of these. Each bale was a full year, so I bought 5 years worth of freshwater and marine aquariums. I read them all, and then I took them into work because all of us had fish tanks. So these magazines, everybody got to read them. The front cover's missing. So I'm sitting in the car remembering that, and I'm like, what the hell happened? Oh, his family worked in the store too. So when you went in there, his kids worked there, the whole thing. And it's gone. And I'm sitting in the car, and I just went through a maze of sound walls. I'm sitting there. It's HeathKit all over again. So all of a sudden there's a knock on my window, and it scares the crap out of me. And a woman sticks her head by the door. She goes, "You're that guy that drives all the way out from New Jersey." I said, "Oh, hi, how you doing?" She remembered me. So anyway, She's just came into work. She's parked. So I got out of the car to talk to her. She says, it's over there now. So I look over and there's this giant building. I mean, huge. Uh, it was That Fish Place. Now it's That Fish Place and That Pet Place. One of the biggest places probably in the world now. But at the time, it was the cheapest tropical fish place, supply place, probably in the world. They advertised on the back of the magazine. So now I walk with her, and she's telling me, she says, "This is my last day." She says, "It's not like it used to be." You know, I walked in there, and I think it was 2 floors, 3 floors. And I walk in there, and it's just like a Home Depot inside. Before, it was a packed store and all the essentials were there, and you had to walk sideways through the aisles and get your floss for your filter. They had rebuild kits for your Dynaflow filter. It was a different company, might have been Whisper, one of them. They had your cartridge rebuilds. You could take the thing apart and reline it, put it back in. They had everything there, and it was you had to know where to look for it. Well, that's all gone. Now it's this giant building, all these kinds of fish, all kinds of plants, and I'm dazed. I'm dazed, and the woman's talking in my ear like, it really lost its charm since it was a little store, And I'm noticing the pricing is much higher because he's got a giant store he's got to pay for. So anyway, I take my stuff, I pay for it, I go out to the car, and I sit there, and then part of the trip was. The gas and everything, plus Burger King or McDonald's, was in there. So I could actually drive all the way to Pennsylvania and get all my supplies for at such a discount. It paid for the gas and for the McDonald's. Well, now the price he jacked the prices up, so now it's not worth even driving out there. And I used to do it every 6 months. That's how that woman remembered me. Anyway, I'm sitting in the car, so I went driving a little bit. I hit the McDonald's, ate. And as I'm driving back into Sound Walls, I'm like, this is probably the last time I'm ever coming out here, which I was wrong. I moved out here. And just a few blocks away, we have neighborhoods in their backyard, they have sound walls. And that's what they're really for. My neighbor would come up with this stupid thing, oh, those sound walls are to keep people from shooting from their cars. No, what the sound wall does is it makes property available to build on. In other words, you got open cow fields and stuff, dairy farms, and produce farms. And then if you put the sound wall in, the farmer could sell that back property that's near the road. And the sound walls did work. They don't work anymore with Jake brakes. But that's the second time that I got like holy crap. I was dazed. I'm going to tell you, I was dazed. No, I'm walking to that fish place, and you would think right away, oh, look how much bigger it is. I'm like, no, it lost its charm. I knew right away. And then when I went inside, it just became like a Petco or something. This was before Petcos were around, and they did it. And it's That Fish Place, That Pet Place. Look it up online. It's over on Centerville Road. I don't know what part of Lancaster that is. I know I've been out there like once to get my license renewed or my ID, but now I have an ID place here. Well, anyway, the third one is I'm about 60 years old. I moved out here. And I had certain walks that I used to do. Before I hit 62 for Social Security, I was living on my savings and everything. I had everything planned out, and I'd go for these really long walks. So I went up past Ronks Road, and I'm coming back. I think I had a road called Irishtown Road. Yeah, Irishtown Road. I hit that, and I walk along that, and I hit this other road. And I'm walking and I'm walking and I'm walking. All of a sudden, you ever get that feeling? Well, you're probably not old enough. You get this feeling you're lost. You don't know where you're walking. It's like that dream. You're in the dream and you're in a neighborhood you don't know where, you can't find your way out. Well, now I'm in the middle of freaking cornfields. And there's a road. I've been on this road a million times, but it ain't right. Something's wrong. And as I'm walking up, I'm like, there's supposed to be railroad tracks here. And there's no railroad tracks. And what I was doing was I was looking in the ground are these white plastic bins or barrels. And during a certain time of year, there's frogs in there. It must be some type of aqua system for the farm. And I was looking there, and I'm looking at the frogs. Before I realize I'm lost, I'm walking along, I'm looking down in these barrels, and there's pollywogs, there's frogs. And I look up and I'm like, where's the railroad tracks? So I walked a little further and I realized I didn't know where I was, and I'm like looking where I came from, it doesn't make any sense to me. So I see an Amish farmer in the field, and he's facing me. He's looking at me, and I wave him. I wave to him. I flagged him down, and he was nice enough to come all the way in. And he comes over to me. He goes, "What's wrong?" I said, "I'm lost." I said, "I'm pretty sure I come down this road at least 20 times." I said, "What?" I mean, he knew right away. He goes, "Look," he says, "calm down." He says, "What they did was they don't want the Amish crossing over the train tracks anymore because they put the high-speed Acela line. I'm thinking Acela, whatever, Axela. They don't want the Amish going over there with the horse and buggy because the train is real super fast. And that crossing there, I don't think they had gates. They only had lights. So they they took a dead end street and added it on to this street that I normally walk. So as I'm walking, I already should be over the railroad tracks and onto Ronks Road, and I'm not. I'm still on a road because the path that goes up to the railroad tracks, they turned it into this other road where you come out. So this guy starts explaining this to me. And I'm like, oh, thank God. I tell him, I said, I was 60 years old. You expect at any time you could become senile and get lost, and the police have to take you home. And then the people from the mental health or from the town, the health department comes and visits you and checks you out. And then they put you in an old age home, make you sell the house. That's where I was. I'm telling you, I'm standing there. I walked that road 20 times at least. And now, what's going on? And this, thank God that Amish guy come out. And he's like, and he goes, you know what I want to tell you? And he had his beef. Here comes his beef. He goes, when I lived on this other road, it was a dead end street. But now they took the dead end street and hooked it to this. He goes, now other Amish people can come by his house and look at what he has. And that was the first time an Amish person clued me into they're very jealous of each other. And that was my hobby, was understanding the Amish people and the nuances that an outsider will never learn. You'll never learn what I've learned, uh, and it's not in any book. Where I learned it was from actual Amish people when they're one on one. You come up on an Amish person, and they're dying to talk to somebody and to vent all the crap they put up with. And if another Amish person comes over, you wait. If they introduce the other Amish person to you, the conversation keeps going. And you might have a second Amish person telling you what pisses them off. Well, anyway, he's telling me all this stuff, and I'm like, holy crap! And I wasn't overheating then. I was overheating, but now that it's a lot of it's nerves. When you get lost, you're like, holy crap! But it was so funny. I don't listen to this guy go, yeah, we used to be able to have a barbecue outside. Now, and the Amish people have this thing where when they drive by on the cart, they really turn their bodies and look. And then the younger kids stand up and clap and wave. You have to see some of this stuff. And they feel like they have no privacy. And they're not supposed to, but they still want privacy. And this guy's telling me, and I thanked him. I said, man, if you hadn't come out, he was looking to someone to talk to. That's what he was, because they had just moved these roads. And at one point he says, look toward those grass. And then right in the grass, I could see just the top of the railroad tracks and some of the lights. And he says, they don't want us going across that because the train comes so fast, it spooks the horse. And then they hit the horse with the train. And I was like, oh, okay. But it was like, yeah, he come all the way over. You're like, man, thank God he did that. What a nice guy. No, he wanted to complain to me about how they moved the roads, and now he has no privacy at his farm. And I walked down his street once, and I realized it was a dead end. I turned around and went back out before I even got to his house. Now, he's got a main road. I don't know if it was, I think it was Harvest. Well, anyway, one of the roads is a Harvest, I believe, off of Ronks Road in Ronks. But that's some of the stuff that happens to you. You lose your favorite, places. It's like I used to tell you about the electronics farm. And I went through so many people that worked there that I knew. And then one day I had no car towards the end, and I would call up. And the guy would tell me if he had something in stock before I'd come all the way over there. And then I called up, and he knew who I was. And he goes, John, he goes, we closed the electronic barn. And I go, gee, I didn't know. I was using Radio Shack at the time for the tip 120s, I believe they were, because they wanted to sell you a tip 120 in a separate package, where and more money than Radio Shack. I was getting the tip 120s at Radio Shack for less money than any NTE, yeah, NTE brand. They didn't have sleeves of tip 120s, and then later on I went online and started buying tip 120s because Radio Shack started closing up, and they were closing up to remodel. They weren't. That's how funny that was. About 18 years ago, they were closing up to remodel, and they remodeled the store basically back the way it was, but with new fixtures. So it always had that same look to it. I think that's it. All right, that's it.